Hello everyone, welcome to JCE Connect series of lectures. So we have already started module number 5, that is design of beams. And in previous lecture we have discussed about the behavior of beams in a bending, and also we have seen how the plastic hinge will form, then the factors affecting the plastic moment capacity. So these three things we have already discussed in a previous lecture. So in this particular lecture, so I'm going to discuss about the section classification. This section classification is depends upon the behavior of beams in a bending. If you understand the behavior of a beams in a bending stage wise, then you can easily understand how the sections are being classified, because it has a connectivity with the previous lecture. Then next thing I am going to discuss is the laterally supported beams. What are laterally supported beams? Then laterally unsupported beams. Then next is the difference between laterally restrained and unrestrained beams. So these four aspects I am going to discuss in this particular lecture. So this already you have seen in a previous lectures, the basis of plastic theory, ductility, yield stress, then the plastic method of design and the plastic hinge formation. These all we have discussed in a previous lecture. And also we have seen the stress strain curve for the steel, then the idealized stress strain curve in a plastic theory. So these all things we have discussed in a previous lecture. And even we have seen the stages of bending of a beam. This is very important for the classification of sections, what next I am going to discuss. So here what happens, the bending strength of a section depends on how well the section performs in a bending. So when if you take a stocky beam, that is a thick walled beam, is subjected to bending like this, when it is subjecting to bending, what will happens, you will get the stage wise stress distribution shown in the figure. So when it is been subjecting to bending as shown in the figure, so extreme fibers, so here I have shown the extreme fibers of this beam what I have shown here, the extreme fibers in the beam, uh, the maximum moment, that extreme fiber will be in the maximum moment region, reach the yield stress. So when it is being subjecting to moment like this, so the extreme fibers will reach the uh, yield, that is maximum moment region, reach the yield stress, and upon further loading, more and more the fibers reach the yield stress, and the stress distribution as shown in the figures stage wise, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. So these are being shown in a figure, and already we have discussed in the previous lectures. And the bending moment that causes the whole cross section to reach the yield stress is termed as the plastic moment. I'll repeat, the bending moment that causes the whole cross section to reach the yield stress is known as plastic moment. You'll get that plastic moment in this section. The bending moment that causes the whole cross section to reach the yield stress is termed as a plastic moment of the cross section. That plastic moment is denoted as MP. The cross section is incapable of resisting any additional moment at this stage. The cross section is incapable of resisting any additional moment, but may maintain the plastic moment acting as a plastic hinge. Okay, acting as a plastic hinge for some more amount of rotations. Suppose if the section is thin walled section, like a slender section, it may fail by local buckling and even before reaching the yield stress. Then the ratio of ultimate ultimate what we call before the ratio of ultimate rotation to yield rotation is called as the rotation capacity. So with this, so next whatever the section classification I am going to make, so it depends entirely on this stages of bending of beam. Then next will be, so the plastic hinge. As you know how the plastic hinge will form. So plastic hinge is nothing but it is a yielding zone with significant inelastic rotation which forms in a member when the plastic moment capacity is reached at a section. So this is the zone of plastic uh, hinge formation. Here it is been shown. This is a zone of plastic hinge rotation, plastic hinge formation. So again I am repeating, it is a yielding zone with significant inelastic rotation which forms in a member when the plastic moment capacity is reached at a section. So this also we have discussed in a previous lecture. So, and we have also discussed the factors affecting the plastic moment capacity, that is the lateral buckling of a compression flange and axial force and even the local buckling of a plates. So this is a very important, this local buckling of a plate, that is local buckling is nothing but it's an element or a parts of a element. If we look at this failure, this has failed by local buckling of a flange and a web, that is the element or a parts of the element of a section that is characterized by the formation of waves. There is a, it has formed like a waves, sorry. So look at this figure. In this there is a formation of waves or ripples along the member, which modifies the capacity of the cross section. This is what we call as a local buckling of elements. So this type of failure, if it is occurring in the members, what happens? The local buckling has the effect of reducing the overall load carrying capacity of the beam due to the reduction in the stiffness of the member. So this also we have discussed in the previous lecture. So in this particular lecture, what I am going to discuss is the section classification. To make the section classification which are being using in a steel structures, especially laterally restrained beams, and to make a classification of the section, the theory behind it will be the bending, what we have, the bending theory what we have explained previously, and the failures or the factors affecting the bending of the beam. Those all basics will require to make the section classification here. And this is the new concept which is being introduced in IS 800 2007 codal provisions. So this classification is been made in IS 800 2007. If you refer page number 17 and clause 3.7, there they have given the classification of cross sections. And this classification is been made based on the member strength, that is based on the member strength is evaluated when the stresses are reached to yield stress, and the cross section of the member is to be proportioned in such a way that the local or overall buckling of the element of the cross section, that is such as flange or a web, does not occur before the limit state of strength is been achieved. Means for determining the resistance or the strength of the structural steel components requires the designer to consider the first cross-sectional behavior. It requires to consider first cross-sectional behavior and the second the overall member behavior, whether in the elastic or inelastic material range. So the cross-sectional resistance and the rotation capacities are limited by the effect of local buckling. So what do you mean by local buckling? Local buckling means, so as I shown, this is the local buckling means an elements or the parts of the elements of the section characterized by the formation of waves, like this formation of waves or the ripples along the member, which modifies the capacity of the cross section. So in this section classification in the code, it has been given IS 800 2007. The cross sections are placed into four behavior classes, that is depending upon the yield strength to width to, that is yield strength depending upon the yield strength, and the width to thickness ratios of the individual components. Individual component means the flange is one component and the web is another component. Based on the thickness ratios, width to thickness ratios of the individual components within the cross section and the loading arrangement, the four classes of the sections are given in IS 800 2007, and these classes are being explained by a moment rotation curve. So what are those four classifications generally made? There are four classes of the sections. They are namely plastic sections, that is the plastic sections are called as a class 1 sections. So I'll explain in detail about what are plastic sections. And next, compact sections, that is called as a class 2 sections. And next, the semi-compact sections, that is class 3 sections. And next is a slender sections, that is it is a class 4 sections. Please make a correction. So class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4 sections, that is slender sections. And these classifications are given in IS 800 2007 in clause number 3.7, and complete, that is a 3.7.2, page number 17 if you refer. So in detail how the classes of the sections are being made, it is completely been given. So here next I am going to show you one moment rotation curve that explains everything about the section classification. And to understand that curve, that is a moment rotation curve, you have to understand the curve of stress strain, that is a stress strain curve for the mild steel. And also you have to know the bending of a beams stage wise, that I explained earlier. So let us understand the section classification. Here the moment rotation characteristics of these four classifications. So I am going to show next the moment rotation characteristics of the four classification of sections as seen from this figure. So let us look at here. So the x-axis represents the rotation theta. Draw for x-axis rotation theta, and next draw y-axis moment. So here it has been drawn. So along y-axis the moment is being plotted, along x-axis the rotation is being plotted. Then the moment rotation characteristics of these four classification or these four classes of a cross sections, which I am going to show now, it gives you the detailed classification about the sections. So class 1 sections, when you make a class 1 section, the class 1 sections means the plastic sections. So here what happens, the cross sections are fully effective, so that is shown here. So look at this graph. So what this graph represents, so this is a completely ductile nature of the section. This represents the ductile natures of the section, which deforms largely. And here what happens, if you just take, it has a large rotational capacity, and this sections gives you the large rotational capacity, and corresponding to that rotation, the what we get here is a theta 2 is the rotation, and this curve what it represents the plastic sections, and corresponding to this plastic, so this is the stress distribution you can get for the plastic sections. And corresponding to the plastic section, whatever the moment you get, that moment is called as a plastic moment, and that plastic moment is represented as MP. So what this curve represents actually, so this plastic curve represents the cross sections are fully effective under a pure compression and are capable of reaching and maintaining their full plastic moment in bending, and hence used in plastic design theory. And these sections will exhibit a sufficient ductility because of the nature of the curve, we can say it has a sufficient ductility, and we can say this theta 2, this theta 2 whatever has been marked for the corresponding curve, which will be greater than the 6 times of theta 1. So what theta 1 is represents, so that is theta 1 we get the next. Theta 1 is the rotation at an onset of plasticity, and theta 2 is the lower limit of rotation for a treatment as a plastic section. And this is about the uh, first classification of section, that is a plastic sections. So in this plastic section, uh, they are fully effective under a pure compression, and they are capable of reaching and maintaining their full plastic moment in a bending, and hence they are used in a plastic design method. The next is this curve represent the compact sections. For a compact section also, this is the stress distribution diagram what we get. So sorry, this is the compact. So class 2, what it represent the class 2 sections, the cross sections have lower deformation capacity, means these sections will have a lower deformation capacity, but are also fully effective in pure compression and are capable of reaching their full moment capacity in bending. So, and they have a ductility in a range of between theta 1 and theta 2, ductility in the range of between theta 1 and theta 2. And these cross sections are fully effective in pure compression. These are capable of reaching their full plastic moment in bending, and these are classified as a compact sections. But next will be the third classification, that is semi-compact sections, and the stress corresponding to this you will be getting a theta 1, and this is the stress distribution diagram for the semi-compact sections. And corresponding to this, whatever the moment you get, it will be calling as a yield moment, that is my. And here the third classification is being made, that is semi compact sections. So what it represents, semi compact sections, the cross sections are fully effective in pure compression, but what happens here, because of the local buckling. So local buckling, as I explained earlier, what do you mean by local buckling, which will prevent the attainment of the full moment, full plastic moment in bending, full plastic moment in bending, and the bending moment resistance in these cross section is limited to the yield moments only. So that is this curve represents. So next will be what, slender sections. So what do you mean by slender sections? So the cross sections in this, if you are having a slender sections, what happens in the slender sections, the cross sections, the local or lateral buckling of the uh, lateral buckling of the member occurs in the elastic range, and an effective cross section is therefore defined as based on the width to thickness ratios of the individual plate elements. Individual plate element means here the web is one element and the flanges is another element. So based on the width to thickness ratios of individual plate elements, and this is used to determine the resistance of the cross sections. And the majority of the hot rolled cross sections belongs to class 1, 2 or 3, and hence their resistance may be based on the gross cross section properties obtained from the section tables, so which is given in IS 800 2007. And these are the classification which are being made and provided based on the rotational capacity of the member when the moment is being acting over the member sections. So depending upon the strength of the structural components, there the classifications are being made as a plastic sections, that is class 1 sections, and the compact sections class 2 sections, and the semi compact sections, that is class 3 sections, and the slender section, that is the class 4 section. This all depends upon the moment rotation curve. And again, these classifications are explained in IS 800 2007. Again, based on that, the what are plastic sections, plastic or class 1 sections, what the plastic or class 1 section says, the cross sections are those which can develop, the cross sections are those which can develop, a plastic hinge, which can develop a plastic hinge and have the rotation capacity required for the failure of the structure by the formation of plastic mechanism. So the cross sections are those which can develop a plastic hinge and have the rotation capacity required for the failure of the structure by the formation of plastic mechanism. They are called as a plastic section. Okay. Then next, compact sections means what? The cross sections are those which can develop their plastic moment resistance. They develop the plastic moment resistance, but which have limited rotation capacity because of local buckling. And the local buckling will prevent the development of plastic moment. And in these sections, there will not be any formation of plastic hinge. But in case of a plastic or class 1 sections, the section or the element or the member of the structure will fail by the formation of plastic hinge. So there the moment distribution will takes place, and in the compact section, before reaching the plastic hinge or plastic mechanism, the sections will buckle, then they will fail. So that represented by compact sections. The cross sections are those which can develop the plastic moment resistance, but which have limited rotation capacity because of local buckling. That is being shown in a figure, that is curve, moment rotation curve. And the third classification is semi-compact or the class 3. In these sections, the cross sections are those in which the stress in the extreme compression fiber of the steel member, assuming an elastic distribution of stresses, can reach the yield strength, but local buckling will prevent the development of plastic moment resistance. Means after reaching the yield stress, the section or the member or the element will buckle, which will prevent the development of plastic moment resistance. That is, that sections are called as a semi-compact sections. And lastly, the slender or the class 4 sections, the cross sections are those in which the local buckling will occur before the attainment of yield stress in one or more parts of the cross section. I'll repeat, cross sections are those in which the local buckling will occur, as I explained what is local buckling, before the attainment of yield stress. Before reaching the yield stress, the members or the element of the sections will attain the yield stress. The members or the elements of the structure will buckle locally. Hence, the slender sections what we get. And these are the 4 classifications are being made in the IS 800 2007. So these classifications, see, look at this figure, you can understand here. So what the plastic section means, what the compact section means. So just look at the curve. I'll repeat what are the plastic sections. The cross sections which can develop plastic hinges. So cross sections which can develop the plastic hinges and have the rotation capacity required for the failure of the structure by the formation of plastic mechanism. Plastic mechanisms, the redistribution of moment will takes place, and the plastic go on forming the plastic hinges one by one and one by one. Then after forming a sufficient plastic hinges, the structure will fail. So before reaching the plastic hinge, the structure will not buckle or will not buckle locally directly. It fails by formation of plastic mechanism. Those sections are called as plastic section. But what about in compact sections or the class 2 sections? You just look at the green curve. What it represents, the cross sections which can develop the plastic moment resistance but have inadequate plastic hinge rotation. These sections will not form any of the plastic hinges and they will not fail by the formation of plastic hinges. That's why they are given in a code. They have an inadequate plastic hinge rotation capacity for the formation of plastic mechanism due to local buckling. They fail by local buckling before the formation of plastic mechanism. Hence, the width to thickness ratios of the plate elements shall be less than that specified in class 2 but greater than the specified in class 1. And these classifications are being given in a code of table number 2 IS 800 2007. Then what the class 3 section represent, that is semi-compact sections. The black curve what I have given here, so the cross sections in which the extreme fibers, just look at this graph, the extreme fibers in a compression reach the yield stress. These extreme fibers in a compression will reach the yield stress but cannot develop the plastic moment of resistance. Due to local buckling. Then the width to thickness ratios of the plate element shall be less than the specified under class 3, that is semi-compact, but greater than that specified under class 2. Then finally the red curve, what it represents, this one, slender sections. So what do you mean by slender sections? The cross sections in which the elements buckle locally. I'm telling the elements will buckle locally even before reaching the yield stress. They are not reach the yield stress. Before reaching the yield stress, the elements will buckle locally, and these sections are called as slender sections. So this is very, very important, the classification of sections. Based on these classifications, so whenever we go for the design of beams, first we have to identify which section that in the design, whether the section is plastic or the compact or the slender or the semi-compact. So based on that the design goes. So try to understand this section classification curve based on the moment rotation as well as based on this as well as based on the bending of the beam. Okay, I hope you understood this section classification. Please go through it once, and along with this curve you please refer IS 800 2007 page number 17 clause 3.7. So these are the three classes. So this is the table given in IS 800 2007 for various elements or the plates, how you can make this sections, whether it is a plastic section or the compact section or the semi-compact sections. So these are being given in a code in IS 800 2007. So in this each compressed or partially compressed element is assessed individually against the limiting width to thickness ratios for the class 1, 2 and 3 elements defined in table number 2 of IS 800 2007. Suppose if the element fails to meet the class 3 limits, it should be considered as class 4. The different elements, even the different elements of the cross section can belongs to different classes. In such cases, the section is classified based on the least favorable classifications. So here, so various width to thickness and the depth to thickness ratios are being given even for the compression element, if rolled section, welded section, compression due to bending. So various limits are being given. You can refer this table, and based on these limits you can say whether the section is plastic section or the compact section or the slender section. You can make the classification that is given, limiting width to thickness ratios. So please refer, I'm telling you again and again, please refer IS 800 2007. Here the classification of sections are being made. It is very very important for the design of beam. So here some of the rolled sections are being given, and here various elements are being marked. So here you can see in this rolled section the depth of the section is marked here, and the width of the flange, half of the width of the flange has been taken, then the thickness of web, thickness of flange, even the channel section, height of the channel section, and the width of the flange of the channel section, thickness of web, thickness of flange, and rectangular hollow sections, even say single angle sections, T sections. So to classify these section as mentioned previously, whether the compact, semi-compact or compact, you have to take the individual elements. Individual element means the web is one element and the flange is other element. Then you have to calculate the ratios, that is width to thickness or depth to thickness, and based on those ratios, so I'll show here in the table. So look at this table. Here they have mentioned the ratio, that is B by TF, that is flange width to thickness, then the depth to thickness of the web, and based on that ratios, whether the classes are plastic class or compact class or the semi compact class, you can easily classify it. So look at this figure, you please refer, you will understand the in given in a code. Again, some of the built up sections are also been given in a code, and there they have mentioned internal elements width and external element width. Internal element width they are marked as a BI. Just look at this one in a code here mentioned internal element width and external element width. So the detailed explanation about the internal element width and the external element width, they are being given in IS 800 2007. What are internal element width or external element width? I'll read from the code what are internal element width. These are the elements attached. I'll repeat, these are the element because we are talking about the built up sections. Built up sections are nothing but one or two elements which are being attached to other elements. So these are the element attached along both longitudinal, just look here, they are mentioned it as a BI and BE. So these are the element attached along both longitudinal edges to other element or longitudinal stiffeners connected at suitable intervals to transverse stiffeners. For example, web up eye section and flanges and web up box sections. So they are called as internal elements. So likewise external element also, external elements they are marked here. External element, look here, external element is marked here. Here also external element B. So these are the element attached along only one of the longitudinal edges to an adjacent element, the other edge being free to displace out of the plane. For example, flange overhang of an eye section. So flange overhang of an eye section, stem of T section, stem of T section, and legs of an angle section, and legs of an angle sections. So these are the types of elements are been given in a code book. Please refer a code book, you will get details about these built up sections of the compound elements. Then next comes laterally supported beams. Very very important to understand what you mean by laterally supported beams. So laterally supported beams. So what are laterally supported beams? A beam which does not laterally move or rotate, not laterally move nor rotate, is known as laterally supported beam. Then it depends upon the kind of restraint provided at the support as well as on loading. Then the examples you can give the laterally, what are laterally supported beams. Beam is supported on a slab. You might have seen the beam and slab are being casting monolithically. When the beam is supported a slab, then this beam will be laterally supported beam. So here are some of the examples given. The compression flange embedded in the slab. Look at this compression flange. In this compression flange, when the I section, the flange is embedded in a concrete, it means if you take this one like this, if I draw here, it will be goes like this. So this I section is completely embedded in concrete. So throughout the length of the beam, the compression flange is being restrained. If you not provide any restraint like this, then the flange of the section may buckle for the load acting on it. It may buckle sideward, and hence those sections are being called as laterally unsupported sections, are laterally unsupported beam. But this is the laterally supported beam, which means a beam which does not laterally move. If you are providing like this the compression flange, it will not move or rotate, is known as laterally supported beam. It depends upon the kind of restraint provided at the supports as well as loading. As I given the example, beam is supported a slab, then this beam will be acting as a laterally supported beam. Next is compression flange connected to a slab by shear connectors. So here the compression flange of the I section is connected to the shear connectors into the concrete. So this also provides a lateral support for the beam. Hence this beam cannot buckle or rotate. Hence it can be said this beam is laterally supported. And even the bracings are also been provided like this. The bracings are provided for the beams, so which can prevent the lateral buckling of the beam. These beams are called as laterally supported beams. Next is laterally supported beam. So this is also some of the examples you can see here. Adequate lateral support. So this also gives you adequate lateral support where the compression flange is embedded in a concrete, so which prevents the buckling of the beam. And here also secondary beams are provided on either side of the section, so which can prevent the buckling as well as rotation. Hence we can say it is been, these are being adequately supported laterally. Hence these beams are called as laterally supported beams. So next, if you look at these kind of beams, these are laterally inadequate. They are called as inadequate lateral support. If you look at this one, so this is not being provided or supported laterally, just a concrete is being placed over the beam. So what happens here, this I section may buckle sideway, it may buckle or the rotation may takes place. So these are called as a laterally unsupported beams. They are inadequate lateral support. Here also look at here, just the concrete is being placed and just temporary arrangements are being made in this beam. Hence these are laterally inadequate beams. Then laterally supported beams. The design bending strength of beams adequately supported against the lateral torsional buckling is governed by the yield stress. And the compression flange of the beam is restrained from moving laterally. And even laterally supported beam, if you are taking, so a beam which is subjected to transverse loads and would undergo uh, bending and deflects in the plane of the load. If you are taking laterally supported beams, a beam subjected to transverse loads would undergo bending and deflect in the plane of the load. And on increasing the transverse loads, the beam would attain its full moment capacity, that is a plastic moment capacity. And two important assumptions have to be made here to achieve this ideal beam behavior. If we want to achieve a laterally supported beam, and this ideal beam behavior, if you want to achieve, the compression flange of the beam, like this, the compression flange of the beam, I'll show you. This is the compression flange of the beam, sorry, the compression flange of the beam is restrained from moving laterally like this, and any form of local buckling is prevented. By providing like this, the any form of local buckling can be prevented. So thus a beam loaded predominantly in flexure would attain its full moment capacity. Suppose if local and lateral instabilities of the beam are prevented, then to ensure the first condition, that is compression flange of the beam is restrained from moving laterally, the cross section of the flanges and the webs of the beam chosen must be plastic or compact sections. To ensure the condition number 1, the cross section should be plastic or compact section. If significant ductility is required, sections must invariably plastic. And if laterally unrestrained length of the compression flange of the beam is relatively long, then the phenomenon is known as lateral buckling or lateral torsional buckling of the beam may takes place. Then the beam would have failed well before it attains its full moment capacity. So, and this phenomenon has a very close similarity to the Euler's buckling of columns. You have seen in Euler's buckling columns, and then where the collapse is being triggered before the column attains its squashing load. Then in a steel structures, suppose if you consider the steel structures, especially in a buildings, beams are restrained laterally. We might have seen in steel structures, especially that too in the buildings, the beams are restrained laterally by a floor decks which are placed on the top of the beam. The floors are being that is slabs are being placed over the top of the beam, and during the construction stage also, before the floor decks are being placed, if the beams are not adequately supported like this laterally, if they are not supported laterally, so how like this, during the construction stage I'm talking, during construction stage if they are not supported laterally, then they may be susceptible to lateral buckling. Therefore, during a construction stage, they may need a special attention with regard to their lateral stability, and if adequate lateral restraints are not provided to beams in the plane of their compression flanges, the beam would buckle laterally, resulting in a reduction of their maximum moment capacity. And lateral buckling can be prevented if adequate restraints are provided to the beam in the plane of compression flange like this. If you provide a adequate lateral restraint like this, then if the restraints are provided then to the beam in the plane of a compression flange, such beams are called as laterally restrained beams. Then these compression flanges of the beam is restrained from moving laterally. Any kind of local buckling is prevented, thus lateral instability of beam is prevented, and laterally supported beam subjected to bending and no bending and shear only, no lateral buckling. Then condition to qualify as a laterally restrained beam, what are the conditions to qualify? It should not laterally buckle like this. This is the before buckling and after buckling. When the load is being put, if it is buckles laterally like this, then it fails to qualify as a laterally restrained beam. It should not buckle like this. None of its elements should buckle until a desired limit state is achieved. Like this, it is a local buckling. So before reaching the yield stress, they have buckled like this. Like this, waves and ripples are formed along the length of the flange as well as web also buckled. This is called as a local buckling. So condition to qualify as a laterally restrained beam, none of its elements should buckle until a desired limit state is reached. Then the limit state of serviceability must be satisfied and members should behave in accordance with the expected performance of the system. Then what are laterally unsupported beams? Any beam experiencing bending along a major axis and the compression flange is not restrained. In previous case, the compression flange was restrained against a lateral buckling. But in this case, any beam experiencing a bending along a major axis and the compression flange is not restrained from buckling, such beams are called as laterally unsupported beams. These beams can tilt along the y-axis. So look at this beam. So here in this beam, the direction of the load and the direction of the moment of the beam are same. The direction of the load and the direction of the moment of the beam are the same. This is similar to a short column under axial compression. See, the before buckling, this was the position, and after buckling, see, this is the position. See, this because before buckling and this is after buckling. Then see, this is the buckled form of a beam, and these beams tilt along the y-axis, and it is interesting to explain the phenomenon of lateral buckling here. So how the lateral buckling will takes place? Consider a simply supported beam but laterally unsupported. If you take this simply supported beam of I section, this beam is not being supported laterally. The beam of short span subjected to incremental transverse load. If you take this beam, it is been subjecting to incremental transverse loading at the mid span. And which has been shown in a figure, the beam will deflect downward first, that is in the direction of the load. So along the plane of the loading, it deflects, and the direction of the load and the direction of the moment of the beams are the same. If it deflects downward, direction of the load and the direction of the beam will be same. This is similar to a short column under axial compression. If you take a long span beam like this, when incrementally loaded will first deflect the downwards. If you go on loading the beam, it will deflect downward, and when the load exceeds a particular value, what will happens? It will tilt sideways like this. If you look at this figure, it will tilt sideways due to instability of the compression flange and rotate about the longitudinal axis. Just look at this figure, it rotates about the longitudinal axis like this. And the three positions of the beam cross sections, you can see here the beam cross sections. So how it has been rotated here. So here rotating at the ends of the beam, as well as it has deflected downwards. So three positions you can see here. So both the end it is rotating as well as deflecting downward. Then this figure, what it illustrates, the displacement and the rotation that takes place as the mid sections of the beam undergoes a lateral torsional buckling. Look at this mid section of the beam has undergone lateral torsional buckling. Then the characteristic characteristic feature of the lateral buckling is that, what is the characteristics of this lateral buckling is that the entire cross section rotates as a rigid body without any cross sectional distortion, and this behavior is very similar to an axially compressed long column. If you take axially compressed long column, the similar to that this beam also behaves, and which shows the lateral torsional buckling of a beam. Okay, so it beam can tilt along the y-axis, and the effect usually seen as a lateral torsional buckling. And laterally unsupported beams subjected to bending, shear, and lateral buckling. The bending strength may be governed by lateral torsional buckling strength. So what is lateral torsional buckling? Just look at this figure, you can understand what we mean by lateral torsional buckling. This is a form of instability and is more complex, since the lateral buckling problem is a three-dimensional in nature. So here what happens, it involves a coupled lateral deflection and a twist. It involves coupled lateral deflection as well as a twist. That is, when the beam deflects laterally, the applied moments exerts a torque. Just to look at this figure. In this figure, look at this figure. The applied moment exerts a torque about the deflected longitudinal axis. Just shown in a pink color, the moments. Applied moments exerts a torque about the deflected longitudinal axis, which causes the beam to twist. Bending moment at which the beam fails by lateral buckling. The bending moment at which the beam fails by lateral buckling when subjected to a uniform end moment is called as elastic critical moment, MCR. That equation also has been given in a code, how to calculate the elastic critical moment. That is, the bending moment at which a beam fails. The bending moment is acting on both the ends. Bending moment at which the beam fails by lateral buckling when it is subjected to uniform end moments is called as an elastic critical moment. So here you can see the lateral torsional buckling. Here the twisting about its longitudinal axis is being taking place. This also shows no web distortion, but lateral torsional buckling, that is the lateral torsional deformation of the flange is being taking place. So this is also lateral torsional distortion. You can say it is a distortion, lateral torsional deformation. Slight web has distorted, and this is also shows lateral torsional buckling only. Lateral buckling or the web post buckled, significant web distorted, significant lateral deformation of the flange has been taken place. So this type of failure what we call as a lateral torsional buckling. So these type of failure will happen because of not providing lateral support. These are called as laterally unsupported beams failures. So laterally unsupported beam will fail by lateral torsional buckling, and also it is accompanied with warping also. Then what is the difference between laterally restrained and unrestrained beams? So these are some of the differences you can take out from the laterally supported beams and laterally unsupported beams. A compression flange of the beam is restrained from moving laterally, that is the laterally supported beams, just like this. And the laterally unsupported beam, a compression flange is not being restrained from the buckling. It depends upon the kind of restraint provided at the support as well as on the loading. And in the laterally unsupported beams, it depends on the section component compactness, the laterally unsupported length of the beam, the geometric properties of the cross section, and the yield strength of the steel. And laterally supported beams subjected to bending and shear, no lateral buckling. Laterally supported beams subjected to bending, shear, and lateral buckling. Then The fourth one, the design bending strength of the beam adequately supported against a lateral torsional buckling is governed by the yield stress in case of a laterally supported beams, and laterally unsupported beams, the design bending strength may be governed by lateral torsional buckling strength. So these are the some of the differences of laterally restrained and unrestrained beams, and this is very important question for the examination point of view. Many times it has been asked difference between laterally supported beam and laterally unsupported beams. So I hope you understood these things. So please go through once again this and try to understand these things. Okay, thank you.